So we can move on from this, I think. These are good starting points. At some point, we're going to get into sectioning. We're going to end up really sectioning this island and really making it a little more detailed, right? But we'll skip that for now. Unless you guys want to. Do you guys want to just go straight into that? Start working on island mechanics and like what we're actually going to find? I think there's some pre-steps we probably should take before we get there, though. Like,
kind of goes into level design.
yeah, it'll be a huge level design part. I agree. But I think that we need to figure out more of our mechanics before we get in there, like our crafting and how our puzzle craft thing. This is all very, very vague at this point, but we should probably figure out how that's going to work, right?
I always enjoyed like pushing and pulling blocks to put them in places, because as simple as most of the time you think they are, sometimes they're complicated, and you can really mix and match and kind of create.
We can do that.
Yeah.
I don't know blocks, but something like that. Sure.
Well, Zelda, like they have those giant blocks.
No, I do. I'm just saying, just for our crafting mechanic.
Oh,
how we're gonna make that. Because we need to figure out, because that's the big mechanic of this game. Since it's not gonna have a lot of balance, it's not gonna be super action packed. It's gonna be really focused on adventuring and puzzle building, and doing this in a cool, creative way to where it's like when you are crafting this thing that you have to craft is some intricate puzzle that you have to figure out. So we need to figure out a way to make these things intricate puzzles, right? I think that we should just start, when we pick one, right? We'll pick the raft, and we can say, how can we make building a raft into a cool puzzle that you can find?
I mean, maybe we could just have them go into a screen where you have all of the pieces just kind of floating in space, and you can rotate around it and move them around and have them fit together like almost like a peg system.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're
I
saying.
mean, it would depend on the different kinds of parts, but like fitting them together, and once it's all completed, then it goes back to wherever you were and drops it in front,
Yeah?
or drops it in here.
Yeah, we can do that. I feel like that might be a little too easy. That'd be like a sort of start, I think, a good base.
So you can do that, but then you can put it together in a couple different ways, but only one way would really work the best, like the way that actually like looks like it might work the best. Like,
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
you can make a glider and not have like a center bracket holding it together, and then kind of you fly for like 20 feet and then
We could have completion. Yeah, that's good. I like that. We could do it as a completion percentage, right? So I'm building this glider or this raft or whatever, but I'm only like 60% complete making it. I can use it at that point. It's just not going to fly very well, and it might end up crashing into a ledge or maybe doing something like that.
I like the idea that if it's not built, you can't use it. Like, there's a function for all of these things. So, like, what's like half using a grappling hook? Can you grapple with it?
Swing it around.
Yeah, maybe you don't have. Maybe you just have a rope that has a thing on the end, and you haven't figured out to get the steam-powered mechanism that actually fires it somewhere. So maybe
Well,
you
like
can use
the
it half
actual
to use
assembly of
grappling
these
hook.
things, I think will be like just a Boolean value, whether or not you have the item, and then once you have all the required
Yeah, I feel like
items, you just-
that would be
You can't-
incredibly complicated. Try to get it
like half
half
functionality.
function.
Well, it could just be, it doesn't do anything, it's just you have this object, you can hit it against a tree, you can throw it,
Until it's 100% complete.
But the
Yeah,
thing
You can
is,
just lay it on the ground,
that's what
maybe.
it's for.
Yeah.
Half
Yeah.
built.
you get
You can
frustrated
try
with
to
building
use
it,
this.
so you can just throw it around a bit and then
It probably won't break though.
I'm just
It's
thinking
not violent
like
game.
in terms of like art design animation for like a half glider and a corner glider and a full glider.
Yeah.
Have
that would be
fun.
difficult.
That's-
Like,
that's
it's a
3
nice
times the
idea.
work.
The thing is, though, is that we want this to be complicated. We don't want to just go for
Yeah.
the easiest fix, because this is probably going to be the biggest mechanic that's in the entire game. Out of
Well, the
everything.
mechanic should be like the construction of the item should be multiple puzzles that you have to do in order to collect these items.
I agree. I mean, there'll have to be some form of puzzle even to get the wood to build the raft. you
Right,
know?
right. Like
yeah.
that is the part that is hard in order to build it.
But we were talking about last week about this crafting mechanic, and we wanted to implement it in a way that it wasn't just so beaten down and overused, because we were specifically saying so many games have crafting. Almost every game that's coming out right now has crafting in it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they're all very much just, once you have these pieces, you just put them together and they magically work somehow, you know. And I think that's something we should stray away from, and that's something that I think if we incorporated a cool puzzle system with, that it would add a lot of depth to it.
There's a couple of mobile games, stuff like The Room, and what's the other one? There's another one where,
Like escape.
yeah, but there's a different one that had puzzles like with objects. But regardless, like there's a lot of intricate moving parts and stuff. That it was a procedure, like you did something over here, and then you could use what you created to affect something elsewhere. Like you built a key, or you had an object and you reconfigured it into a key or into something that would, make something else work. So that's what I'm thinking we could do with our crafting system is maybe even have like you're finding stuff lying about and you take it apart and use pieces of it or reconfigure it into something else. Like that's kind of what steampunk is that
True.
it's not just using pieces of a completed object, you're taking stuff apart and using it elsewhere.
Yeah.
So decomposition of like any
Yeah,
object.
that,
Like your initial plane that crashed, like you'd find pieces lying about and you use those.
or boats that it had
Yeah,
washed up,
you know, I see what
or
you're saying.
any number of other things, yeah.
Yeah, and then we can have, I like that, so we can use deconstruction, basically, and we can make that an intricate puzzle in itself, right? How you
That would be-
deconstruct it.
That would be a way to do it.
Because I think that maybe you're deconstructing this boat, right, and you want to salvage all this wood, but you mess up the puzzle a little bit and you don't get as much wood as you originally were planning on. That might be bad, that might be limiting,
So you
but,
just walk up
Yeah,
to a
that
tree
would-
and
right, walk up to the tree and press X, and then a new screen will pop up with some kind of puzzle for you to extract the wood from this tree.
Eh,
Or you just pull out your Minecraft pick.
exactly.
Could you be able to like wait a day and like a new boat will wash ashore that you could use? Like, are there gonna be days? and days?
regenerating loot.
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah.
no, I don't really like that idea. I like the idea of like all of the puzzles are set and like you can complete all the puzzles and like yeah. I don't want it to be I don't feel like it should be really open world. Like I would
It's not. I
Kinda
don't
like
think
it
we're
to
gonna
be-
do like a procedurally generated like.
I like the
Minecraft,
ideas of
yeah.
having random islands you start at,
I
but
just don't think there's a purpose to it.
past that, yeah, I don't want it to be too open world randomly generated. Like I would like to be able to complete all the puzzles with all the stuff that I'm given and not be able to just kind of randomly lose or break something.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Maybe if you don't get 100% on the puzzle, it just kicks you out and you gotta do it over again.
Yeah,
you get 100%.
exactly.
You do something like that.
So
Or maybe even just doesn't kick you out, you just have to kind of take it apart again and put it back together.
Yeah,
the right
sure.
way.
Exactly. That kind of goes along with the whole like
yeah, because
dying, right? Or not
yeah,
raising.
you could be like, oh, you broke the sticks, go find more, and then you have to do that puzzle again. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be rough. All
Or
right,
even
so I like
just
that.
go
Then. So we
somewhere
can
and
keep
take
that.
it out again.
All right, so let's actually put this into a sort of a real scenario that we count. Let's say that we want to build this raft. Let's say that we start on this island and we look around. And there's some stuff. So how are we going to actually make this raft? You know, what are we going to find wood to build it? Do you think, or ship remains? Let's say that we have remnants of our plane, right? We want to build a raft out of the remnants of our plane. How are we going to go about doing that? We're going to walk. We're just going to walk up to this hunk of metal, I'm assuming, or this object just existing. We'll walk up to it and then we'll press some type of interaction button, and that'll bring us to a new screen. Is that what you guys are thinking? A whole new, maybe not a whole new screen, but just maybe like a pop-up window will come up, like a pop-up
Yeah.
pane, and then inside that pane, you get a little crafting, some form of crafting menu type thing.
I like the idea of like a crafting puzzle. It makes you kind of
Yeah, I do too. I
like,
think
how do
that's a
I
cool mechanic.
like? I'm gonna have to find a way in order to salvage something from this rack. Here's my puzzle, and then that's where game mechanics come into play, where you create some sort of puzzle to extract whichever material is given at that.
Okay, so let's say we walk up
What
to
you
let's say we walk up to
could
this
do-
plane. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let's say we walk up to this plane And let's say we get here, we're at the pane, what do we see though? What is actually here right in front of us? It's some form of puzzle, right? But it's gonna be some puzzle based off of our crashed plane, right?
I mean, what you could do is maybe kind of move the character or set their perspective and turn it into like a point and click, where you're like selecting things like resources that you think you need, or
You should be able to like, click on this, do you wanna remove it? Yes, remove it. Or do you wanna move it kind
Well,
of thing? You know, well, so you.
I like the idea that certain things in the world are interactable, and if you interact with those things, it gives you a puzzle to
Yeah.
deconstruct that object, or to construct something out of that object. You know, and you'll two different tasks for one object. It's pretty cool. Like you walk up to a tree, you can either
You can add
hit
to it,
wood,
right?
or you can build a fort. or
Yeah,
something.
okay, I like that too, right? So, all right, so we walk up to our interactable object and we click our interact button, and then it's gonna give us two options, one to add to or to remove from, right?
Right.
More or
Nice.
less, right? And then so we click on, let's say we're gonna click on, so we'll click on like the remove from, for example, on our ship. And that's going to bring up a basically a new pane that's gonna have the list of things that we're able to deconstruct, right? It'll be like you can get some wood or some metal scrap or some windshield or
I think that should be built into whatever you're interacting with. It will
yeah,
know.
it'll know what it has, right?
Well, I don't think things should have multiple things.
Oh, you don't?
No.
So you think that if I walk up to a crashed plane, I shouldn't have the option of getting multiple things?
We should
I
have
just have
set
or
that
like
plane
separate
there for us.
interactable areas
Yeah, no, I
of that. Like if it stayed together when it crashed, mostly like there's different interactable areas of the aircraft. Like,
Okay, sure.
And then some things may not have a construct. Some things may only have deconstruct.
Or you could try to add to it and nothing will ever happen.
Yeah, you just consistently fail. It's like
Well, that's like,
you have a
but
puzzle
the
that can
idea
never be
is
failed.
like you're given a puzzle, you expect to be rewarded for
What if you
completing the
just
puzzle.
have, like, you can walk up and it comes up and you have an image of, you can move it around, and on the side, like, you have your inventory that you have. And you have the option, like, you don't have to click, I want to add to it, or I want to take it away. You can just either try to add stuff from your inventory onto it, or you can take stuff out of it, put it into your inventory, and either deconstruct it or add to it at the same time.
That could be
Be
good.
able to do that.
Just one last step for the person to really have to go through. Instead of choosing to build or take away, you just have both options right then and there with access to your inventory right next to it. Okay, so then we'd have our inventory pane over here that's got our items, right? Whatever our items happen to be. And then maybe only certain combinations of things, only certain logical combinations will actually work. I couldn't go and I couldn't throw, I couldn't take a pile of sand and put on some leaves and have that make something, right? That wouldn't do anything. You'd do it, you'd put it maybe have some slots to where you can choose where to add the stuff to, and you throw in these two things that make no sense, and it just